question.
Hmm?
So is collection a new unit of publication?
Yeah, collection is a unit of publication. Yeah, and collections can be nested ad infinitum. Meaning you can collection within a collection within a collection. You can share your collections. You can make them public or private. You can allow other people to edit them or add to them or not. You can associate privileges associated with them. And basically, when you log in, you have the ability to make a collection. We support the login now is kind of interesting. We use OpenID, so you kind of keep your own login, your Google or Facebook login or whatever. This is also allows you to connect it, what you do with other accounts. So my little fantasy here is on your Facebook feed, it says, you know, Joe just added a map to HyperCities, and click here. That's important because it basically allows, you know, again, a kind of ongoing record and interaction between social media and maybe more academic educational media. The two often tend to be very separated, and this allows a kind of feed between the two. So when you log in, then you have the ability to add curate collections.
And so when you had your students reading Benjamin or Simmel, do you geotag the essays?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can either use it as, I mean, we've done a couple of experiments with this. I mean, mostly right now, they're just really basic, meaning geotagging. I stick it in a place and it's a PDF and they will look at it. But you could do much more sophisticated things, which is, I mean, a more kind of OCR or kind of HTML thing where you're embedding really the whole argument on this sidebar over here, which supports HTML. So you can do anything you want with it and really stylize it and connect it to, you know, a number of other things you want them to think about. Yeah.
Do you have Dublin?
No.
I was just wondering about it.
Now, there's a number of, these are the cities that we have right now, and it's really just a function of people who've come to us. Mexico City will be coming very soon because we have a colleague who's working on Mexico City. New York, the stuff that has the most content, honestly, is LA, New York, Berlin, and Rome. That's because we have a number of people working on those areas. We have a partnership with the New York Public Library for a bunch of the maps from New York, as well as colleagues at the City University of New York who've been doing classes there. So there's really great New York maps if you have a chance to look at them. I mean, they're fascinating and really beautiful. The collections aren't as developed for New York, but the maps themselves are. Yeah, including this really interesting 1609 map of Manhattan, which is before the arrival of the colonists. All the maps have information where they come from, metadata. So this was actually created by the Wildlife Conservation Society. This is a map before European settlement, and it's, most of these things they'll tell you also where they're hosted and who created them, and all kinds of information that would be useful for, you know, someone who wants to document this. Everything also allows you to create, you know, to do citations, which mean that you can always, everything has a permalink associated with it, and you can also create essentially like a setup. Like I want to have this map on with this collection with this object on, and I want to take like almost like a screenshot, and it'll give you a URL, and then you can use that as a citation to come back for later. If you're making an argument where you want to show, you know, a particular map and a particular zoom level with a particular object on.
So do you find some of these projects are map-driven, I mean collection-driven? I'm just curious because it seems like there are a lot of projects going on. The Tehran project is obviously event-driven, but it's just emerged out of a, you know, city was there which was not visible, but then it's visible on YouTube, etc. Right. So you map a present. Yeah. But in terms of, you know, when you showed us the layers and you talked about shifts, I was wondering about, you know, where those shifts fall. And are they driven by map collections? I mean, when you have the maps of
in some ways they are. I mean, especially like with Berlin, I mean, some of the things that I've been studying are just like the histories of synagogues in Berlin. And it's something that I've been this is one of my areas of interest. And that I think really does have that layered aspect to it. I mean, just to show you what I'm talking about briefly, I mean, this was the map that I had on before. So that's 1772, and this is, so E here, actually, let's see right there. This is this was Judenhof, so the Jewish quarters, courtyard. And near there, you also have the very first synagogue. It doesn't appear on a map in 1719, even though it existed in 1719. And in fact, the synagogue had to be built underground so that it wouldn't be technically above ground for just reasons that they weren't allowed to build above ground. It enters the first map in not 1772, it's the one before that. The first map that I've been able to find it on. It may very well be an earlier map as well, but I found it in 1766. Now, we don't have every single map, so I can't absolutely verify that yet, but it's been interesting to me too, is that this doesn't exist in the present. This space is an apartment complex and a parking lot. I went to that space.
Can you show that 1766?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's going to take me a little bit because this map here is actually, it's not only geo-referenced, and you can turn it around in Earth mode, but this is one that's made looking south versus one that's made looking north.
Right.
Which becomes something of a issue for any time you're dealing with these maps, is that they're often, one, they're not, again, it's not necessarily planimetric, not necessarily oriented towards true north, and they take a fair amount of kind of analysis to locate.
Well, that's why the shadows are on
That's why you see the shadows and also these buildings going down. Yeah. So I'm not sure that I can find it instantaneously, but I can.
It looks like
might
it's
be able to.
up there, kind of.
Yeah, let me see. Like, I have it marked in another collection, so I might be able to find it.
I mean,
let me like see if I can
the
find
reason
it.
I ask is kind of what's intriguing about spaces is that people have to share spaces. That's sort of the.
Yeah, the location.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. That's the location of this first synagogue. I think I wrote a little thing about it. I mean, this is
Oh, that's
tiny.
cool.
Yeah, 1714. Actually, I've been saying 1719. Sorry, 1714. But yeah, this is after 1766 is when I was able to find out where it made its first appearance, and yeah, it's this courtyard there.
Oh, that's cool.
That's the courtyard today. It's the north. Yeah, it's the north corner of that particular of the Judenhof, which is here, and I believe it's in the legend of this map that I found reference to it. So that was. Not to say this is not a positivistic thing, but it's more like a history of representation thing. It's like, when did something get represented? And then when did it stop getting represented? That's interesting, which you can begin to kind of explore in this kind of a way. So, yeah. I mean, I ask kind of weird counterfactual questions too, which is sometimes, like, what if you put up the Berlin Wall in 1772? Where would it go? This is, if I can show you that.
But I mean, do you put in things that people remember that you don't have any archival backup for?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's to say people you can, like I was kind of saying earlier, you can we have like family histories who, I mean, we're beginning to have a couple of those where people will just like tag information about someone's life journey. There's one in particular on here that's a Berlin one that happened. I was interested in because I know that her particular life story went from Berlin to New York to LA, and I thought that would be kind of cool if you could sort of like. I don't have much about this particular person, but enough to know that she was on a kinder transport, a child's transport. They managed to go eventually went to England, and eventually to New York, and eventually to LA, and you could see what I wanted to do was connect the life journey on top of maps. Yeah. And so you kind of get a sense about this. I mean, it's not complete yet, and I don't know enough about her journey to be able to complete it at this point, but yeah, that's one example.
Are the memories marked in such a way that one is to understand that they're subjective somehow? I'm just wondering that it would be difficult to navigate that distinction between objective knowledge, reputably neutral knowledge that one derives from the map, and subjective knowledge that one derives from one's experience.
They're not marked differently. No. I don't know if they should be. I guess that's the question. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show you.
Cool.
That's cool. And the two maps that I've overlaid is 1776, 1772, the route of the Berlin Wall. I mean, what you obviously realize is that it's a counterfactual question. What if you put it up then? Most of Berlin's in the east. It's interesting. You can also do kind of more traditional GIS, like in terms of objective knowledge. Where did the industrial sectors, where were they? Where did railways get built? Where did a certain racial composition of a neighborhood, you could do kind of, if you have social science data, you could do any of this kind of analysis, taking the historical maps as like layers within, say, ArcMap or ArcGIS, and do kind of spatial analysis, quantitative spatial analysis. I mean, is it a more objective? I mean, of course, if you say objective is quantitative, of course it's more objective than a story or someone's memory. But within HyperCities, the two things exist on the same level. And that's, I think, really, that's been at least a point that I've been trying to make for a long time, is that I think that they deserve to be taken equally seriously. And so clearly, like, where they come from is very different, and how you arrive at that knowledge, but they're not marked differently as like, you know,